These are sizable books. They are minimum 200 pages. You can download them absolutely for free by simply going to, for example, this one, you just go to getmymarriageback.com, smartrealestatewholesaling.com, realestatemoneysecrets.com. So yes, I am a 3 times author, and those books are out there for your consumption, and they are also available everywhere on Amazon, anywhere that you pick up books. So in case you prefer a physical book like that. All right, welcome. I've got this movie that I want to watch together with you. I think you're going to be blessed by it. And it was a conversation that I was having on Clubhouse, and I taped myself, and I wanted to test something like this out anyway, and I want to hear your opinion about it. And it's called The Problem with Modern Dating Culture. I think somebody asked me a question, and I decided to talk a little bit. I was a little bit all over the place, but I think you're going to pick 1 or 2 things out of it that you will like, right? And I want to hear your thoughts about it as well. So let's get into it. He's vetted his wife, right? And he's been married for a whole two years or so. I'm like, wow, congratulations to that. Somebody asked him and said, who graded the paper? And that was a fantastic question, right? See, the truth of the matter is that the world we live in right now, people are divorcing at 15 years of marriage. People are divorcing at 30 years of marriage. And yes, white people, the ones we try to paint as, oh, they figured this marriage thing out. Hey, yeah, their women are always loyal. White people, they're the worst. They're the one that leave their husband at 40 years, 42 years of marriage. For real reasons. And their men are also, they have their own place, manosphere, where they're crying on YouTube as well. Right? So let's be aware. There's a new order in town. Okay? And it's here to stay, and it's not going to leave. And if you don't learn it, you're going to suffer. And running away from marriage is not going to help you. Running away from relationships is not going to help you. Running away from love is not going to help you. Because you're still going to engage other types of relationship, and the same skill sets are required. They are. You have to learn how to manage your emotions before attempting to manage other people's emotions. Okay? You have to learn how to make moves of faith, meaning you understand that there's always limited information. While it's okay to acquire information, you should understand that there are limitations to those information one of the first limitations is that it's based on your interpretation. Your interpretation is flawed in all types of ways that you haven't even seen yet. You have no context. That's what we were saying earlier, almost an hour ago, right? Your interpretations are limited. They are what they are. They are shaped by your experiences, by what somebody else has taught you, maybe by some culture, religion, whatever you were raised with. Which is basically set up on other people's limitations, right? What they knew. And the one thing about God is that you can't put him in a box. That's the mistake that most people keep making. You can't put God in a box. As a matter of fact, I just tried to do that by calling him a him, right? It's all kind of fallacies all over the place. We have limitations as human beings. You have to stay humble, period. And I mean that by every level of ramifications. Like if you take anything away from what I just said, humility. Just actively listening, actively be interested in other people, because people are representations of God on earth. You cannot claim that you love God and you don't love people to the point that you're willing to listen to other perspectives, even if it completely conflicts with your core, with what you believe in. You're not listening to suddenly just believe. You're listening to collect insights so that you can create your own rules, your own game of life. Because this life is a game. It's not a joke. It's a game that you have to learn how to play. And yes, ladies, you too, because you don't have the luxury of men saying, let woman be woman. You don't have that. Clearly, if you listen to this room long enough, you don't have that luxury anymore. This men, they are willing to get into their feminine energy and hold you accountable if that's what it takes. So what does that mean for you? Because you can't say, hey, they're going to stay single and buy a dog and die. You can't say that, because that also means you too. Just the same way the men can afford to do that. Because at the end of the day, we need each other. That's why we're button head. If we didn't need each other, we would just be indifferent and everybody would do their own thing. But the reason for the arguments is because obviously we need each other, right? So we got to figure something out. We have to figure something out. And what we need to figure out is like, okay, what has social construct done to us? What has the socialization, which is part of the character, it's not something you can blame on people, it's just a characteristic of human beings, right? What has that done to us? How is it evolving, right? How has that affected the society we live in? How can I make up rules to still get what I want? Because it's still very important that you get what you want, right? But also don't lose yourself too much, but also be respectful of the society you find yourself. Don't be so arrogant to the point where you say, I don't care. My rules are my rules. Well, that's not how it works, right? That's simply not how it works. And you need to be extremely aware about what I am saying. That you're a social being. The reason why you're arguing at the top of your lungs is because you care. If you have to tell me that you don't care, you clearly care, right? If you have to tell me that you whatever, that means you're not too sure of whatever it is you're calling yourself. Because if you're so sure, I think it will just speak for itself. Even if it doesn't speak for itself, results will speak for itself, right? So I'm rambling a little bit here. Let me go back to the point. What is the struggle? I agree 100% that it is unrealistic expectations. Guess what? Why most divorces are happening? The data is saying finance or infidelity or any of these stupid things, that talking points that people say, because that's what people answer when they ask them the question. When they ask those 10,000 people at most the sample, the answer is finance. But that's the symptom. Okay, that's just those things that they record are the symptoms. There are underlying issues that made finance a problem, right? When a woman says, not a typical woman by the way, but if any woman says no finance, no romance, right? She's saying like, listen, if you're broke, I don't feel safe and secured, right? That's probably also coming from different other variables. It could also be because she's a gold digger, but usually that's not the case. Usually it's because there's no woman that's comfortable with having to struggle for bills. You're not comfortable with struggling for bills, so why would you think a woman would be comfortable with that, right? So if effectively you went and invested in some kind of shit, some cryptocurrency, and you lost a bunch of money, and you came back to your wife and you say, hey, we lost money, and then she filed for divorce, which is a fact that 80% of divorces are filed for by women, but it's because of other things that happened that never make it to the spreadsheet, right? And then they now ask her, what was the cause of this divorce? And she writes down either irreconcilable difference or she writes finance, right? And then because you've been listening and soaking in the wrong guru on YouTube, you run around and say, there you go, she's a gold digger. See, you missed a big piece of what created that situation, right? Because again, data is always going to be a lagging indicator. There are other things that happened, and your ability to dig a little bit deeper and to start to unpack these things is going to help you maintain a long-term relationship that obviously you want. Because if you don't want long-term relationships, you wouldn't be listening to me. If you're hearing me, if you didn't want it, you wouldn't be engaging in conversations about it. If you didn't want it, you won't become a gospeler of stay away from marriage. Right? Again, your actions, consistent actions over time, speak louder than your words, right? And yes, there's no absolute in anything I just said. There could be an exception, right? Some people are actively trying to recruit people into their world, but they're very, yeah, they're the exceptions. They're not the ones you will see. They're not most of them. Okay, most of them that are loud about this kind of topics because they care, they want it, but they're trying to figure it out. They can't understand what is going on. So I think we're in a place where we really need to rise to a level of emotional intelligence. What that means is that you understand your own emotions. When I say that, most people think we're trying to say, hey, you must pander to other people. No, we're saying understand your own emotions. Why is it that you have the feelings that you have? Right? It takes a lot of work to dig deeper to that level to understand that. When you do that, naturally you will pick up other people's emotional flaws or intelligence or whatever it is. You'll be able to read minds. So people ask me, so why are people asking us to read minds? I think we started this conversation with that, right? Why are people expecting people to read minds? Because, hey, you have to read minds. You're dealing with emotional beings. Sometimes they can't express themselves, not because they don't want to. It's because emotions are powerful. They're very powerful. So even when they try to shape it into words and say it to you, they're kind of sugarcoating. They don't want to offend you. These are real things. They don't want to offend you. They're pondering all of that, right? They don't, because offending you can take them backwards. They also don't like that feelings of offending you. They care. Like all of that becomes what you may have considered ineffective communication before, right? That's why you have to engage actively listening, because with time, they will naturally feel safe in expressing themselves to you. And that's really what you want your partner to be, to feel like you're the safest zone for them to come to. That's what you want them to be. Okay? You want them to feel like you are the safest zone to come to without jeopardizing your own mental health. All right? Because again, like I said, some people are just bad. They're very, very minority. Okay? So for your case that you're very quick to accuse people or diagnose people with narcissistic behavior, there's a good chance they're not narcissistic, at least not at the clinical level. Everyone has a little bit of narcissism in them, right? Because what it simply means is that they care about their own feelings at a very minute level, right? But when you start to diagnose people, there are certain criteria that has to align before you can diagnose people with narcissistic behavior or narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. And people are self-diagnosing their spouse all day long just because they haven't taken the time to work on themselves. Working on yourself is probably most likely impossible before marriage because you don't have context. You don't have a frame of reference to even know what you're working on. So slowing down your natural progression in building relationships just because you want to build yourself is, that falls short too. I know people like to say that self-actualization, self-something before. It's usually bullshit. You don't even know what you're working on. You haven't been put into that place of test. You will be tested inevitably. So just like a baby start walking, they will fall. They don't because they're going to fall. Let me learn how to walk before I start to walk. That's not how that works. You have to start walking. You fall, you learn. You fall a little bit, you will learn. Then eventually you stand up. If you wait too long, you will need therapy to teach you how to walk. Have you ever seen adults that need to learn how to walk? They need help, professional help. Like if somebody has an accident, they need professional help to be able to walk again, because they know too much. They know how it feels to fall, so they don't want to fall. Right? So waiting too long because you need to master everything before you, that's a bad idea. Right now, you need to learn how to make moves of faith. As you're learning, you're making moves of faith. If you have fear from past relationship, that's something you need to work on and heal from, because that will affect you. And if you listen to too much bad rhetorics online, you may need to switch up. Maybe you need to completely disconnect your present YouTube account, clean your cache, clean your, the cookies, right? And start a fresh brand new YouTube account and plug into the right channels. And then you will see that YouTube will only feed you stuff that you're eating on. Right? So same thing with here, This room is a little tricky, right? Because there's a lot of buzzbars, right? A lot of negative stuff going on. But if you read my bio, you will see why I plug in here sometimes. It's because also some of the things you hear are reality. That you're hearing here are reality. If you see the man talk and it comes off toxic, at least you know what's going on with people's mind now, so you can work accordingly. You know what their concerns are. Doesn't mean you have to take it as gospel truth, but these are real things that's going through people's mind, and you just need to be aware of them. All right, all right. Welcome back. So yeah, I just 15 minutes, 15 minutes of just rambling. But I thought some things that I wanted to know if there's anything you picked up from that. I would like to hear it in the comment area. And yes, let's move on to the next topic.